the last thing we're going to get into here, we've covered a bunch of stuff, baseball, football. Peyton, I appreciate also you joining us midway through. I know you had to hop on a little bit late, but I'm glad we can get your opinion on this. For the NBA, crazy news. Bill Russell passed away at the age of 88 this past week. I want to just kind of understand, obviously you're a Celtics fan. You know his legacy, that what he meant to Boston, what he meant to the world, more than even Jacob and I would from, being from Mass. What does Bill Russell mean to the world as a whole? What legacy is he leaving behind? And what does he mean to the people of Mass, even people of Boston?
He means everything because he fought through adversity and he fought through a lot of awful things. I could bring up a lot of instances, whether it was when he was away and his home got robbed and vandalized, and they literally were smearing human feces on his wall.
Yep.
And just the treatment that he got from Boston fans was absolutely deplorable, and it's nothing to look at and be proud of, but it is the truth, and it's something that we should talk about. And the amount of rings he won and the amount of adversity he fought through and the way he played the game and the way he didn't let it impact him in a negative way. He just opened up the doors for Boston sports. You know what I mean? Just to play like that under that much scrutiny or whatever, however you say that word. I'm sorry. But he's huge. He's absolutely massive. Again, 11 rings. World, like just like not even as a Celtics guy, I think he opened up basketball as a whole just to be more accepting and more just open to things. You know what I mean? Because of the amount of stuff he went through and the amount of crap he had to deal with to get on the court. Like, he means everything. And it was a shame to see him pass away. I mean, 88 years old, at least he had a good long life, but it was really sad. And again, he means everything to Boston sports and the Celtics. And even more, I think he means a lot to the NBA as a whole, just for changing the narrative and trying to help be a more inclusive, accepting environment, for all players, whether that be players of color or anybody else. You know what I mean? Anybody with differences. I think Bill Russell was a massive proponent for acceptance. And I think, that's the most important thing that we should remember about Bill Russell is that he went, he suffered a lot for the betterment of the league and the betterment of player treatment in general. So wicked sad to see him pass away, but huge, huge, huge inspiration in NBA history and sports history as a whole.
I'm glad you brought up the story about, him on a road trip and his house being vandalized, because it's important not to just talk about, he's the greatest winner of all time in sports ever, in team sports. That's obviously one of his legacies, but it's important to talk about the off the court stuff and what he did as an activist. He was right in the thick of it in the civil rights movement. He walked with Martin Luther King. He was there at that press conference when Muhammad Ali announced that he wouldn't be going to, I believe it was the Vietnam War, if I'm not mistaken. That's what it was.
Yep.
He was at that. He got back then. He was Lou Alcindor. He got Lou Alcindor to attend that press conference with him. And he was just there for all those iconic moments. Like, he was right there in the thick of it in the civil rights movement. So much of an impact off the court. He was awarded the Medal of Freedom by Barack Obama in 2011. He was the first ever African-American black head coach. He won 2 titles as a player coach. He was a player and a coach for the Celtics in 68 and 69. I mean, he embodied everything you wanted in a person, in a player. And he even, in an interview once, he said, I'm not trying to be, Bill, like, my goal is not to be like the greatest basketball player of all time, Bill Russell. He goes, I'm just a man. Like, he just wanted to be a man that lived a fulfilling life. And we can all say he did that 100%. Jacob, what will you remember him most for? What should he be remembered most for? Is it his on the court winning, or is it his off the court, activism, being a part of the civil rights movement, and just him as a person?
Well, I think a huge thing too that wasn't really specifically mentioned, along with like the off the court civil rights aspect, there's also the fact that 1950s, 1960s, I mean, there had been almost no black superstar athletes, period, because baseball was pretty much the only really popular sport. The NBA had not taken off yet. Hockey wasn't huge. The NFL was not even the NFL. So all there really was baseball and a bunch of white guys playing baseball. And then Bill Russell comes in, and he was truly, Jackie Robinson may have been the first black player, but Bill Russell was probably the first black sports icon. I mean, he was the best player in a league, and I'm not trying to take away from guys like Jackie that broke the barrier or whatnot, but there's a difference between being a player in a league and being a perennial all-star and / MVP / world champion, which is what Bill Russell was. So he really set a platform to then integrate sports to a point where, look, not only are we going to mix, the colors within the league, but these guys are also going to be not only in the league, but they're going to run the league. So, like I think that's a huge thing that, a lot of guys would give him credit for and would acknowledge that he was really, the first superstar, to come in and transcend everything.
And he also he helped in in desegregating schools in Boston as well. So it's another example of the activism they did off the court. There were stories that I was hearing, though, just to close out this conversation in the show itself, but there were stories that I heard from guys like Kendrick Perkins when he was with the Celtics and Bill Russell was at one of the practices. Perkins walked up to him and said, "Hey, can you sign this basketball? I want to get a signature." And Bill Russell was known for never giving signatures out. He wasn't that kind of guy. And Bill Russell looked at Kendrick Perkins and said, "No, I won't sign the ball, but you know what I'll do? I'll give you my phone number. We can have a relationship with each other." And Kendrick Perkins was like, "Nah, man, I'm good. I don't really want your phone number. Like, I want the signature on the ball." But he was that kind of person. The whole point of the story is showing that Bill was a much more intimate person, that he wanted to have a personal relationship with you. He wanted to get to know you. He was interested in actually being genuinely interested in being with people and wanting to get to know them and spending time with them and having genuine connections. That's something that I can just the person, Bill Russell, not even the player and the activist, but the person, the man. He was just an amazing human being. He accomplished so much, and he will be one of those guys that is severely missed. Magic Johnson even brought up the point that the NBA should retire the number 6 and let nobody ever wear it again. And it's interesting because LeBron's number right now is 6. Do you guys think they should retire number 6? Do you agree with Magic Johnson?
Yes. Yeah, I agree with the points you made too, where it's like, this guy was the best winner of all time. What are we going to remember him for, though? His personality, who he was as a person, his was. That's, if you have somebody that's that good and broke a barrier, like Jacob said, and really opened the gates for all these guys to come through and dominate in the league, and the things we're talking about aren't even what he was doing on the court. I mean, I don't think there's any guy that deserves it more. You know what I mean? Personally, yeah. And again, I get LeBron's wearing the number right now, and there's a lot of guys that might want 6, but I agree with Magic. I think they should retire it.
Jacob, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things. It's like, how could you sit there and have a problem with it? I don't really think anyone would. So I think there's definitely enough reason to.
It's just a matter of will they or not. The other story, Peyton, again, I keep saying the last thing, but there's something that's popped into my head. The moment on stage when Dikembe, Hakeem, and Shaq and all those centers were on stage, and Bill Russell points at every single one of them and goes, "I would kick your ass," and then he has that cackle with the laugh, just stuff like that moment right there. It's like that encapsulates who he is and just everything about him. It's like he was not a trash talker. He never talked highly of himself. He didn't do that. But that moment right there, honestly, now that I said it, is probably my favorite moment of Bill Russell, of seeing him live during during an event or something. Him pointing at Shaq and all of these dominant centers, guys who are top 5, top 10 players of all time, and saying to every single one of them, he has his cane, his old guy, that's just what it, you know what I mean? That's just what Bill Russell is. They encapsulates who he is. But yeah, definitely going to miss him. He's a pioneer and an icon in the sports world and the basketball world. And yeah, that's going to wrap up our show. That was all we had for you guys today. I do want to say, make sure you guys go follow us on Instagram at TCHT_podcast. We'll be posting all notifications as to when our episodes go out on Spotify. We're on Spotify as well, The Cold Hard Truth. You can go on there, listen to all 41 of our episodes. You can give us a rating, follow us, share, all that different stuff. And yeah, just give us some support. We appreciate you guys listening once again. Thank you. We'll see you guys next time.